What's up everybody, Ramey here, and today I'm reviewing the Titan Fitness X3 lever arms. Now I did a video talking about whether you should or should not get lever arms. I'm going to hit on some of those points, but not all of them in this video, because I'm specifically talking about the Titan X3 lever arms. Now the X3 lever arms are going to be the same, similar as the Titan T2, T3, and Titan series lever arms in their design, so I can kind of talk about all of them. There are just a few little differences that I'll mention here and there. As you can see on my rack, I actually have my X3 lever arms mounted on my Titan series rack because yes, the X3 lever arms work on different racks because all the holes for Titan align with one another. So I'll kind of talk about that a little bit as well. So first of all, I bought these scratch and dent for around $200. Which is a great deal if you're familiar with the price of lever arms. New, these are like $300 some. But these are the X3 ones. Basically, when you buy the X3 lever arms, you get these grips right here, these handles, and you get a bracket. If you buy them, you get what Titan calls their adjustable bracket, which means it's easier to take on and off, and that's kind of what it comes with. If you have the old version of the lever arms, the old version of Titan's lever arms, these actually were permanent on your rack. You had to like bolt them in. It wasn't just adjustable, like pull in and out. So if you have those old versions, just know that these do not come on and off. They are actually bolted in, and you'd have to hand tighten or to get a wrench to screw them to take the brackets off. All right, so what do I think about these lever arms? So first of all, let me talk about how I'm using the lever arms. Then let me talk about the design of these specifically, what I like and don't like, and then let me talk about whether I think it's worth it for you to get them or not. So when I first got the lever arms, and one of the things I think that frustrates people with lever arms, because they're one of those things that like look super cool, but like you hear so many people online say don't get them, they're not good. And I think one of the reasons is because the adjustment period for them is kind of like lengthy. For example, when I first got my lever arms, one of the exercises, and let me tell you the exercise I do and then let me come back to this point. So the exercises I'm using these for that I like are chest press, I'm using them for shoulder press, and I'm using them for belt squat. And you can go online and search like 30 or 50 exercises to do with lever arms, and I went through and tried a lot of those. And honestly, like I didn't think that they were very good. I really wanted to use these for leg press. I just could not for the life of me. I tried every position, every type of seat on my bench. I tried laying on the floor and kicking up. Just could not get in a right position for these things. So one of the interesting things about lever arms you have to remember is they work on a pendulum like this. Like there's a pivot point and it's literally like a lever. So what makes it interesting is right here, there's zero weight. Whereas right here, because of gravity, this is a lot harder and starting to like hurt my finger. So that means there's uneven weight sometimes for certain movements. So you have to really play around with them. So for me to get in the perfect position for chest press, probably took like 15 or 20 minutes of me like moving this up and down one thing, getting in the right position, playing with the handles to figure out exactly where I wanted them to be. So it would work right. I also needed to play around with where was my weight, like is weight better on the side, is weight better on front, for every single exercise. So there's this adjustment period for them. It's kind of like when you buy a new computer and you're like, oh, it takes me like if you switch from Mac to PC, like it takes a week to get used to them. Same things with the lever arms. You kind of have to get used to them. But I tried that for every exercise, and those were the three that worked for me. But I think a lot of that has to do with your body type and just how they work, like with the length of your legs and stuff like that. Also, there are different setups where people put like band pegs in here and use bands to make them different to make it harder or lighter, and just to keep even pressure throughout the movement. So there are all kinds of ways to play around with it. So as far as like exercises, there's tons of different ones you can try. Some are good, some work really well, and some work really bad, but you kind of have to play with that for yourself. So those are like exercises and what I'm using them for, really for accessory work. Let's talk about the design of these things. So first of all, these things are ginormous. They're big. So one of the things you need to think about is where are you going to store these puppies? Are they staying on the front of your rack like this? What I actually do is I have them on the back of my rack. This is where I store them. So on my 6th post, I have my lever arms right on the inside, right here. So they're in the way, not at all. They're not on my ground. They're not anywhere. They're the inside of my rack on the back 6 post. So storage is something you need to think about with these things, because the Titan ones do come on and off. Now, as far as the design of the Titan racks, they come with these grips. What I realized really quickly is that I hated this thing. I just don't like this grip at all. Here's what I didn't like about it. I didn't like that, like, I couldn't do like a basic like barbell grip. Like they really want to force you to like be on this side here, like here or here. I couldn't just like get a good grip like on a flat part unless it was like so far out, like my shoulder, like I just want to grip flat like right here. So I couldn't do that, so I actually don't like these and I don't use them at all. What I do is I actually use weight plate pegs. You know, I also use them to store my weights on, but I put this right here and now I've got more of a barbell feel. And what I do for the chest press actually, so for shoulders, and I do that for chest press, I actually put a pull-up bar in between my lever arms and use a pull-up bar. So that's like design of the handles, what I thought. So I did have to buy like some extra plate holders, which is fine because I can always use these things. And you can get them pretty cheap on Scratch and Dent. So I did do that. And I don't use these at all. I just don't like them. So that was the first design thing I didn't like about it. Next thing about this is that I noticed that when I moved this thing, I was going to kill myself by taking a finger off. The design of the Titan lever arms is really dangerous. So let me just show you what I mean here. And I've done so many mods of these things, so you're like, what's he taking off there? I don't have that. I'm just showing you how to move these. So look, what happens when I move these. So what happens when you move these is, look at this. Look at that. This is heavy. This is really heavy. You see that clinking right there? Imagine if your finger was in there. Goodbye finger. Yeah, seriously, goodbye finger. So, you can see it's actually not easy to even get in here. Okay, so what I've done to these is I realized taking them on and off was going to be extremely dangerous, and I was probably going to eventually lose a finger, or if my wife tried to do this, because these are too heavy for my wife, it was a huge pain. I said, there has to be an easier way. So what I did is I asked myself, can I separate this lever arm from the bracket to make this easier? And the answer is yes. I did that. So let me show you that. Just let me make sure this is safe first, and I'll explain why I use this extra pin here for safety. All right, so what I've done is I took the bolt out of the lever arm and used a hitch pin so that I can take my arms on and off. What this does is it makes this super easy to move around, and also makes it so my bracket is really easy to move around, and there's pretty much no risk of losing a finger anymore. So now you've got my bracket on and off. What I found is that now this is the X3 lever arm, so the holes are 5/8 inches. But this hitch pin, that hole is actually 3/4 of an inch. So this is a 3/4 of an inch hitch pin. I'm not sure if the T2, T3, and Titan series have different size of that specific hole. I'd imagine they're all the same at 3/4 of an inch. But I haven't been able to verify that. If any of you can, please comment below. But that's what it is on the X3. You would just have to measure it yourself and figure out what it is. Now, let's talk about the design of this bracket here. Okay, let me take it off, and we're going to talk about the design of it. Okay, so the bracket of the X3 lever arm. So, and this is going to be the same for all the lever arm brackets for Titan. The problem with this bracket is that it goes in with a pin, and while that seems great, like it's going to be like a J hook, it actually is not great at all. Because the problem that you run into is that what they expect you to do is use this pin and then use one lower bracket. So what happens though, put this in, and when you're using it, it moves like that. Again, there's like quite a bit of wiggle room there, and I did not like that at all. So since I didn't like that wiggle room, what I actually did, and the other thing is I was always scared like it was just gonna like fall out. So what I did is I drilled in to the bracket right here with a 1/2 inch hole so that my lever arm bracket actually has two pins. What that does is it prevents this from wiggling around at all. So there's no wiggle room whatsoever. Also, makes it a lot safer. Titan should just get rid of this hole altogether and just have 2 holes right here for 2 hitch pins. Much better solution, much better system, much easier to move. I think it would have just been a huge thing. And this is really thick steel. You can take a look at how thick this is. So drilling through that is not fun. It's not a fun project for most people. So it's kind of crummy that it was built like that. I think they could have done a much better job. I'd like them to see them change the bracket and actually just put a hole up here. So Titan, if you're watching, two holes. By the way, I really like this hole that you can kind of pick and choose how it's going to fit, because it's like not just one hole, it's like like a nice horizontal line. Dude, do that for all your cross members and stuff to make things fit better on people's setups. So much better to have that. Anyway, getting back to, so that's the design of them. Another thing that could be improved is holes up here, so you could use it to like mount the rack. But for me, what I've actually done to mount the rack is when it's up here on a bracket, you can put a safety spotter arm like right underneath it to hold it up, or use chains to hold it up. So that's kind of like my review of the Titan arms themselves, the design. I do think that to be used safely, you really gotta detach this from the bracket. I just don't think it's safe. That was a very simple do-it-yourself. Literally just unscrew something and use a hitch pin. That was it. It took 2 minutes. You just have to make sure you get the right size. On the X3, as I said, 3/4 of an inch. That's the big thing. I don't think that the second hitch pin that I use on the bracket's a huge thing to do, but it does make it safer and less movement for me, and I personally prefer it, so I did like that. So that's on the design. So I think they're designed okay. I think that they could be improved. I'm glad that they don't like stay on the rack all the time, because that would really be crappy in my opinion. I want to be able to take them off and store them. So do I think these things are for you? Like, do I think you should go out and get them? So as I said in my review of lever arms in general, whether I think you should buy them or not, yes, they look cool. They're kind of useful in that if you're the type person that's like, hey, I really need an accessory with a machine, like I gotta do that, or I need to permanently like use machines and these fit the bill. And also you're the type of person that doesn't mind like taking some time to set things up while you're working out. Like take a minute to get these together and pick them up and set them up while you're working out. I think these will be great for you. If you're the type of person that's like, I hate setting things up while I'm working out, it's like gotta be done or I'm not using it. And I don't know if I really need these. They just kind of look cool. I can imagine myself like using machines. No, these are not for you. Don't get them. You can also mimic a lot of those movements with like cables, like especially like a functional trainer. So like, they're probably not for you then, in that case. As far as the Titan ones go specifically, I think that they're going up in price, and I think they're getting less and less worth it. I think when they were like $200 some, it was like, well, yeah, it's only $200. Worst case scenario is to spend $200 to find out I don't like these things. Now they're like in the 300s and probably going up. You're starting to get to this point where it's like, if I would have spent $400 or $500 on these things, I'd be very angry. Very angry because I had to mod them a bunch to get them to even work in a way that I thought was good. And just like my use, I found that like I don't mind setting things up at all, and I find like I just don't use them as much as I should because of that. I do really like them for belt squat, but like I don't do belt squats that much. I do like them for the chest and shoulder thing, but again, I don't do those that often. I do lots of bench press. I do lots of overhead press. I do lots of squats. Like I don't necessarily use them, but I do use them every once in a while. I pull them out and use them as an accessory for the day, and it is fun. I like it. But as far as like, so I guess one of the things I should say to conclude this, whether you should buy these or not. So like if I was like prioritizing for me and what I would recommend to most people building a home gym who their goal is, you know, power building, health, like they want to lift heavy, lose weight, build muscle, all the good stuff, you know, you're not like training for something specific. I'd probably put these pretty low on a list of priorities. I'd tell you to definitely get your, you know, barbell, rack, bench as first things, and weights. Next on my priority list would be some kind of like lat pull down, some kind of cable and low row system or functional trainer type thing. Then I'm like talking, if you're asking what's next, on my list of priorities, it's like GHD or reverse hyper or both. Then we start to talk about like things like lever arms. Are they cool and fun and worth it, like extra? So that's when you start talking, like when you see something listed for like $500, I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of other places I'd rather spend my money, even like another barbell or something. So like, are they cool? They look cool. You know, if you're looking for the pictures, these look cool. The Titan ones are decent enough. They work. I did have to modify them a bunch to get them to really work functionally for me. I do think they're dangerous. The bracket is dangerous. So like if you're watching Titan, like please fix that. Someone's going to lose a finger. Anyway, if you bought these, let me know. I'd be curious to know how much, like what kind you used, how much you paid for them, if you use them a lot. I'd also be curious if you've taken them apart, like I have, especially if you have other ones besides the X3, like you have the T2, T3, or Titan series, what size hitch pin goes right here in this bracket, just so I can start to recommend that, tell people like what size they need, because right now, since I only have the X3 version, that's all I can really tell them about. And let me know your thoughts, y'all. Later.